This is the outline in terms of what I want to speak about. And of course, I will take up questions throughout the 60 minutes. Whenever you want to ask me something, please feel free to put it on the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and talk to me. The first thing is to refer to other reports because there's a lot of excellent work that other people have done. And it is important not to start from a blank slate. Nobody does that. Read a lot of guides which tell you how to make charts and how to decide what to put in a dashboard. The use of colors is super important. Everybody neglects this. How to save your work as a template and how to present your Google spreadsheets, your Excel spreadsheets like a PowerPoint slide from a presentation point of view. And then I want to speak a little bit about how learning small options and the minor changes matter a lot, which I'll showcase to you. And then some more advanced topics. One is get pivot data. The other is OLAP cubes. Most of you would have at least heard of get pivot data, even if you don't work on it. OLAP cubes might be new to you. And without getting too much into the theory, I'll tell you how you can practically use it. So there are a bunch of different examples I want to show. But the first thing I want to do is to pick a simple data set and show you how the default Excel chart should never be used. I do not care how important it is for you to create the presentation, or maybe it's just a run-of-the-mill daily chart that you want to create. But then you have to make it stand out. It has to look that you have put in a little bit of effort in it. So I have a data set here. Again, it's nothing fancy. Let me just clean up a little bit. Nothing fancy. We have 17 product subcategories and we have some sales amount. And I'll put it in a new workbook so that I can send you all this file as well. The moment you look at the data, obviously a lot of questions come up in terms of what would be the best way to represent this, right? And usually what I like to do is to refer to some guides. For this, you can simply go to Google and they'll say, choose chart type. Many people have put in a lot of effort creating these reference documents for you. It's like a cheat sheet. And you can open any one of them. And it shows you the most common types of charts that you should be using. And just a moment. All right. It shows you the most common type of charts that you should be using. And it helps you understand what type of chart is most suited for the type of data that you have. For example, we have data which is ordered, maybe it's not ordered, maybe you're trying to compare something, maybe it's over a period of time. Like this, there are different people and they have created different reference documents, and you can just randomly go on Google and have a look at them. Download it. I would suggest even take out a printout, a nice color printout, because this always helps you. The biggest challenge is that most of us forget that there are so many interesting charts available, and you shouldn't do that. You should have a reference with you available at all times. That's number one. Now, in terms of how I can make an inbuilt chart look pretty, I'm just taking a very simple data. Watch the number of things that I can do. First things first, I will insert my basic column chart, nothing special. And I'm sure all of you will agree that it looks really boring right now. There's nothing wrong about it, but this is probably not the best way to present the data, correct? So what can we do? Now, one thing is that we can make it dynamic. That means, please watch. I can say, choose the direction. All right. And in direction, I'm giving the person two options. I'm saying either it should be ascending. I'm just making a drop down. I'm saying ascending or descending. So as you can see, there are two options here. I'll also color the cell. And I can say ascending or descending. And obviously, I want the user to be able to choose the option that they want. And then what do we do? In the corresponding column, in column D, I will say sales, which is ordered. And here we can say that sort. So we want to sort our entire column. And what is the sort order? We can choose either ascending or descending, as you can see, right? But rather than writing 1 or -1, which we usually have to do, I can say choose, right? So I can say choose, and then we can say the index number. Now, choose might be a little complicated here because most of you, I'm assuming, haven't worked on it. That's okay. If you want to keep it simple, simply use an if, right? So you can say if the value in I1, right, is equal to ASC, then the result should be 1, otherwise it should be -1. So what's going to happen? Since I've chosen ASC, it gets converted to 1, and the sorting is going to happen in a ascending order. And if I choose DESC, it will come in a descending order. But then how do you connect the chart? Now, rather than choosing column C, I'll just delete it. I will only select this and this. Same thing as earlier, insert charts. And as you can see, we create a chart like this. And it's very nice because the user has control over the direction. Now, this function called sort is not available to all of you. You need to be a Microsoft 365 subscriber for this. But this works on Excel Online, which is free of cost. But I strongly suggest that all of you should pay 489 rupees per month and get a Microsoft 365 subscription, because as you can see, these features are absolutely fantastic, right? Small things, but matter a lot. Now let's look at this from a presentation perspective. There's nothing wrong with it, but I want it to look a little, a little nicer. And what I would really like is that certain values should be highlighted. So maybe my top 3 values should get highlighted. How do we do that? So here we say my top n, right? And the user can choose the top n. And I'm allowing the user to type a number, let's say 3. And what do we write here? Let me just remove that. The formula that we are going to write is that if the rank, all right, if the rank of the first value, right, is in the entire data set coming in the top 3 or the bottom 3. But then if you think about it, why do we need all this hassle? Because the data is already ordered, isn't it? So somehow we want to say that only the first 3 numbers should be replicated, all the others should not be shown. To do this, I can say that equal to, please watch, if the index number of C3 hash, that means the 17 values, because everyone has an index value from 1 to 17, correct? So I say that if the index value is less than equal to the number the user has chosen, which is L1, then what should happen? Then I would like, so I'll just close this, right? Then what would I like? I would like that the value should be shown, otherwise the value should be a blank. So I will say, show me the value, otherwise show me a 0. Okay, hold on. So I'm saying in the array, so I'll also have to select the array first. All right, and then I say that my row number should be, just give me a moment. So what do we want to say? We want to say that in our array, we are checking for a series of values. And I'm saying that if this C3 hash is less than equal to 1, will that work? Let's give it a shot. And we get the same result everywhere, but we don't want that. So what I'll smartly do is I will select C3 to C19. And we will also say C3, and just a moment. Okay, there's something on the chat window. Vishal, the session is being recorded and it will be shared. Absolutely, right? All right, hold on. So how can we do it? Just give me a moment. Let's do it simply. I will simply say number of rows, okay, from the current cell, which is D3 with a $sign, and then I will do D3. So what it will do is it will give me numbers like this. As you can see, this is the beauty of Excel, right? Like if something doesn't work or you feel that is too complicated, you can just search for an alternative. Like I started with the rank. Then I thought, you know what? Let me try with the index. Then I felt, you know what? I think rows is the easiest way of doing it. So I've just written rows of $D, $3, and then colon D3. Now what we want is to say that if the values is in the top 3. So very simple. We will say that if this value is less than equal to the value the user has selected, then I want to show the number, right? Which is this. Otherwise, I want to show a 0. Long story short, it will show me only the top 3 values. Same thing. If I change it to ascending, it still shows me the top 3 values. But why are we doing that? Let's see. In this chart, I will also select this new column, which is the top end column. And now you can see that there are two columns that are appearing for the first three. There's an orange series, there is a blue series. Why are the orange columns not appearing for all the others? Because the value is 0, right? So if there was a value somewhere, then it would have come. But because it is 0, you can't see the value. But then it doesn't make any sense, right? Why are you showing two columns at the same time? So the idea here is to, please watch, to double click on any series, and I will do a series overlap of 100%. Basically, they are overlapping. One is above the other. We will also reduce the gap width and just see how beautiful the result looks. I will change the color for everything. So format, shape fill to gray, and I will select the top three only, and I will change it to green. Now see the final output, everybody. The user can decide the direction, okay? And I can also choose the top value. So I can say top 5 or top 2 or top 1. Right? I'm not completing the example, but I just wanted to give you a sense of how a simple chart can be made to be so much better and have so much more complexity in it. And I've not really added anything else. I've just taken the sales value and I've done this. Right? Let me show you one last thing before you ask your question. Just the one last thing. All of this is okay. Just a moment. Let me just complete my example, then feel free to ask your questions. What if I want to have a reference line as well, right? So I will say equal to average of all my 17 values, like this. I'm sorry, I'll have to put some dollar signs here as well. So this is the average, and I will include that reference line in the chart as well. There's something going wrong. Because we want the reference line to be a line, not a column. We go to chart design, we go to change chart type, and then in combo, we say that the reference line should be a line, right? Like this. Just see how nice this is. Just a moment. So change chart type, and let me also make sure that the series overlap is 100%. And everybody, look how nice this is. This means that you can have a reference line that is the average, or you can also have a reference line that the user can choose. Let's say you're doing some scenario planning. So I can say the user can decide 50,000, and then whatever number the user is deciding, let's say the user says, no, I don't want 50,000. I want 25,000. So you notice that the reference line changes as well. So as an extension, you can also create a band. So you can say that I only want to see the numbers in this band, let's say between 25 and between 50. Yeah. So I'm going to take a pause here. I'm sure there are things you want to ask. Please feel free to ask.
Hi, Havish, I have a doubt on the top N. Can you just put the cursor on the top N first? I want to know the code for the same. I missed it.
This one?
Yes. Right, this one.
Right. So what we are doing is we are first finding the row number. So that would be 1 till 70. And then
I've understood the code. I've understood. Thank you.
And obviously to the end user, you don't want to show all this calculation, right? So the way to hide it is you simply go to number format. So right click, go to format cells. And then in the custom format, please put 3 semicolons in the type, 1, 2, 3. By doing that, you have hidden, all the rough work, so to say. And the end user just looks at this. They're not bothered with any other thing, right? And that is how
sir. Yeah, sir, can you please show the formula once again of sorting? It will be beneficial.
Yeah, even though I would recommend don't be too bothered with the formula because that can always be learned. I'll show it to you, but then you can always go back and have a look at that. I'll share the file with you.
Okay, sir.
Right. All right, let me also save the file. Let me not accidentally delete it. Just a moment. So this is Open Excel. All right, one more. Now I had mentioned how do you find excellent ways of creating charts? Go online and search for good reports. For example, you can just go online and type, let's say, PwC, and don't type PwC charts. A lot of people do that, and then they say we're not able to find anything. How will you find PwC charts just like that? What you should do, on the other hand, is to type PwC, type a sector, let's say finance, and type PDF. This will open up in only PDF formats for you, as you can see. Let me open one of them. And you can see that the entire PDF obviously is available for free. And what this does is it allows you to essentially, make these, identify excellent themes and excellent colors and the placement of different objects, how icons are used, right? And this can be used as an extension for creating charts as well. So look at the way these colors are being put together, right? Icons and text is being combined together. Even for that matter, a table. Look at the way the table has been presented. So let's take a few examples here. I already have these reports that I have saved, which is on my desktop. That will save us some time. So these are designs from multiple firms, so consulting firms, professional services, market research, and I have over 200 slides here. So I've literally gone to different reports and one by one copied and pasted everything. All right. Look at this one, right? I really like this. This is what EY uses. EY is one of my clients as well. And again, look at small things. Let's identify different elements in the chart. Now, one thing you will seldom see is a y-axis. Because the point is that if you already have the number, then why do you need the y-axis? It doesn't make any sense, right? Also look at the way the colors are being used. Since the yellow is the one where we want the user to pay attention, that is why we are highlighting it. So it becomes very clear as to what column we want the user to focus on. This is a KPMG table. Again, look at the way the colors are being used. Now, some of you might say, but Havish, fine, this looks very nice, but they have an entire design team who does this. How are we going to recreate? I want to show that to you. I'm just going to copy this, come back on Excel and paste it as a reference for me right here, okay? The next thing that I want to do is to get some data with me. So let me open a data set from where we can get some data. Just give me a moment. I will have to make a pivot here. So let's say we have a subcategory. We have, what else can we keep? All right, let's keep the segment. And we also have our sales values, right? It's a simple pivot, nothing fancy. I'm going to copy the complete data set, come back and paste it here. And I'm sure all of you will agree that it looks fairly boring at the moment. And we want to make it a little more interesting. The first thing that I will do is remove all the formats. Select, and then go to this button and then say clear formats. So everything goes away. I also don't want these decimal places. So let me remove the decimals as well. And also align everything in the center, much better. Now we want to get the same colors that we're using here, right? To do that, I will select the first row and we go to highlight. Now the question is, how do I know what exact color this is? To find that, you will have to also open PowerPoint at the same time, right? Because we're working on the visuals, right? So when you're doing dashboarding, PowerPoint has to be open at the back end. So I'll open PowerPoint here and please watch. I'll copy this here. And all we need is to find what color this is, right? Now, one option in PowerPoint is that I go one by one. I go to picture format, picture border, then I select eyedropper, and it will tell me, okay, this is RGB 4578 149. Then I have to remember that number, go back to Excel and type this number. Too much hassle, isn't it? Who's going to do this for 15 colors? So you can do this on PowerPoint if there are 3-4 colors, but if there are more colors, or if the task is where you have to do it repeatedly, I recommend that you go to a website called color.adobe.com. All right. And on color.adobe.com, you can simply, it's a free website. So you can go to extract theme. You can select the file. So I'll first have to save that. So let me save it on my computer. So I'll save it on my desktop. I'll just call this my sample. Come back, select the sample file. And what it will do is to automatically detect all the different colors that are being used. So if you see this, these are the 5 main colors that is being used. How do you use them in the Excel now? Simply copy the hex code. So 2B4C8C, just click, copy, come back to Excel, and we want to select the top row. We want to go to highlight. We want to go to more colors. We want to select custom, and then here we want to put in the hex code. So with a little bit of effort, we are able to do this. I'll obviously change it to white as well and make it bold. Right? So I hope what you're seeing, I hope you're able to relate to it. This, everybody, is how you recreate reports. And everybody does this. This is the correct way of working. Right? Same thing. I also need to come back and get this color here. Right? So this one. Let me just move it around. So this is something I'm going to copy and then come back to Excel. And we want to select, let's say, one column that we want to highlight, maybe the last one. Select that, go to highlight, and then select more colors, custom, go to Hex, and then paste it. And then one final time, we also want to get this nice gray that is there. Copy, come back, and select, and more colors, custom, and then Hex. Now, some of you must be wondering, Havish, why did you go and select the gray? Can't we just select a gray from here? But that's the difference between laziness and putting in effort, right? I mean, if you want to create something really nice, then you have to put in this additional effort. Now, I also need some lines that are coming inside the table. So I select everything. And we want to put some lines. So we go to border. And what color do we want in the line? Now, rather than choosing a black, which is probably too high contrast, I will choose a dark green. So first I'll define the color of the line. And then I don't want to put the border everywhere. I just want to put the border. Please watch. I just want to put the border. In fact, let me put it everywhere. Let's keep it easy. I'm putting it all borders. So it comes everywhere. But more importantly, now I also want to select the bottom row. And in the border, we will select a different color. So I'll select a blue color here, for example, this one. I will also go back to border and increase the width of the line. So I'll increase the thickness of the line. And after selecting, I only want to apply the bottom border like this. So you notice this blue color that is coming is what we have recreated from here as well. Let me also go to view and hide the grid lines so you can see it clearly. And of course, then you can select the numbers and change the colors and all. So of course, it will take some time. But the idea is that this is what we are trying to do, which is to be able to, in fact, this doesn't look good. Let me change it to black itself. Right? So this is how you can pick up something from the internet and then try to recreate it inside Excel. Right? Any questions on this?
Just one doubt. If this is a table, which is a final product, and if you want a table too, can we do a format painter and exact format painter instead, like for a macro for something like format painter is what I know. I just don't know further what step.
See, that depends. So if, for example, let's say I copy this here, right, just as values. So if you have the same number of rows and columns, then you can essentially do a format painter, and that should work, right? But if the number of columns are changing, then I mean the result might not be 100%. For example, if I've added some columns here, now if I come back and say format painter and select all of this, you notice that the blue is still coming in the center. So you will have to do that manually.
Yeah, thanks.
So 60–70% work can be done like this. Okay. Right. Oh, by the way, let me go back to the PowerPoint and show you how many more amazing things you can find like this, right? And that's what I suggest. Please go online. Like this is a heat map, right? Looks absolutely brilliant. And let me show you how I recreate it very quickly. I just put the heat map here. Let me just check which firm is this. So this is a McKinsey report, all right? And I really like the way they have made it. First, I need some numbers. So I just select everything and put some random numbers between whatever, let's say 1 and 5. And then we want to say that each color will have a different, each number will have a different color attached to it. So on conditional formatting, we go to color scales, but color scales will not really give us the colors that we want, right? So we have to go to more rules. And in more rules, you can see that I can identify the colors that we need. We usually don't keep more than 3. And then you can pick these colors. I'm not choosing the exact same color. I'm just choosing something as close to it as possible. Or maybe something on a shade of blue, right? In fact, let's keep this as a gray. Let me keep this as a blue, right? So you get this. And then you can, like I said earlier, you can right click, go to format cells, and then put the format as 3 semicolons so that only the colors appear and everything else is hidden, right? Yeah. So that's the idea, I try to pick up these existing charts, try to deconstruct it, and then see how I'll be able to recreate it. Of course, you can't do everything on Excel, but you try to get as close to it as possible. Like this is called the waffle chart. And a lot of people say, but Havish, how can you make the waffle? We can't do it on Excel. Let me show you. This is how the waffle looks. Please watch. The first thing I'll do is I will reduce the width. So let me make it 5. And let me increase the height by a little bit. So let me make it 60 or maybe a little bit more in fact. So let's select the numbers and let's make the height 18, maybe a little more. So 22. And let me make the width as 4.5. Perfect. So now you can see it looks like squares. Everything is a square. And once you have done this very smartly, what I'll do is, please watch. This is what we want to create, by the way. Okay, we want to have these squares, but there has to be a gap in between. Let's see how we do that. So you select the column, but don't select all the columns at the same time. Select the first one, press Control, and then one by one. I know it's a little time consuming, but it's worth the effort, right? You select everything, and then you want to press Control Shift plus sign. So you're essentially creating a blank column. I hope you can understand what we are doing here. Let me just complete the example. Right, like this. Now, once you have done this, of course, you can reduce the size a little bit, right? And you don't want that gap to be too much, right? So one by one, I will just select these columns where we want to reduce the gap. So let me just do it a little faster. For these, I can reduce the width to maybe 1, right? And the same thing I can do for the row as well. And this is how you end up creating a waffle chart. You know, it looks so much better than earlier. See, this is something which is not bad, but then a lot of people do it. The moment you make something like this, it really stands out because the first question people will have is, how did you make it? I mean, because clearly it isn't simple, right? There are a few steps that you have to do. So I like to challenge myself. And of course, there are easier ways of doing this as well. Like if you don't want to spend all this time and effort, simple, select everything, go to border and select the line color as white. And then you go to border and select a line style of a thick line. And then also you select all borders. Obviously, it will work like this. So there are different ways of working. Each of them is a little different to the other. And you have to be very creative. And you should not be afraid of trying out different things. For everything that I show you, imagine how many times I might have tried different things which did not work, right? All right, now there's an important topic, so I'll cover that first because I don't want it to be left. And I don't want you guys to leave early and miss out on that topic. This is related to my pivot tables, all right? Now I have a data set here. I just select everything. Control C, come back, paste it, and we'll make a pivot table, all right? Now we all know that in a pivot table, we can't do calculations, correct? Wrong, you can. This is how we do it. I'll give you 2 different ways of doing this. Number 1, go to insert pivot like you always do and make a pivot table. Nothing fancy. And then you go to, let's say, sales and values and subcategory in rows. Now, if I ask you, can you make a target for the next year? Obviously, we know that we can't do equal to this because then this funny thing happens. I want to show you how to make get pivot data dynamic. Please watch. You write equal to, select the cell. It shows you the get pivot data. And if you notice, it is selecting the field subcategory and it is selecting the item accessories. We want to, and we know that if we drag it down, it doesn't work, right? So if I say into 1.1, if we drag it down, the same number comes, right? So what you have to do is you have to select this accessories, and rather than writing it, hard coding it, you select the cell. And now you notice that I can have a formula that is connected to the pivot table. So get pivot data is very simple. And whenever you're creating dynamic dashboards, connecting multiple pivots, super, super important for you to learn how this works, right? And to remember to use it. All right, now this is get pivot data, but I want to show you something even better. Watch this. Now this part is a little unusual. Most of you would not have done it. And for this, this is what we have to do, all right? You have to click on insert and pivot. But when you're making a pivot table, select this option called data model. This is for advanced Excel users when we are working on data modeling, when you connect multiple data sources. So I select add to the data model, click on OK, and we will do the same thing, all right? So I select my sales, and I will also select my subcategory. Right? Please watch. Then it's just one click. What you have to do is to go to Pivot Table Analyze, and then you go to OLAP Tools, and then you say Convert to Formulas. Very simple. And as you can see, it has created some cube functions. So we have cube member and cube value. I'll not get into details of how all this works. You can Google it. But the idea is that the formulas are still there. So you have not done a copy paste special values. The formulas are still there. And the best part is that you have managed to take away all the values, retaining the formulas, but not in the form of a pivot. So now you can connect it to other parts of your spreadsheet and your dashboard. All right. And if you want to see what connection is there, you can go to data and click on queries and connections. And you can see that this is the connection we're using right now, the workbook data model. Right? You can also go to properties and see more things about it. But again, we don't need to get into all this detail at the moment. And of course, if you have connected to Power BI, then now you can also insert reports directly from Power BI in Excel. I'll not get into that now, but then it's good to know that this feature is available. All right. Now, from a dashboard perspective, one more thing that I suggest is to please use add-ins. For example, let's say we have Havish and Anmol and Talha, and we have 10 and 30 and 20, right? Just watch this. And these are names, and this is my sales value. Rather than making a basic boring chart, go to Insert and then select Get Add-ins. There is a store available, and you will find many add-ins available here. I want something called the People Graph. It's free. It's made by Microsoft. Click on Add. And once the People Graph gets added, it is embedded as a web page on your document like this. Let me just decrease the size a little bit. Hold on. Just a moment. So, all right, let's decrease the size. I don't know why it's so gigantic. Why is it so large? I have no idea. Strange. Just a moment. I don't know. There's something finicky about it. Let me see if I can reduce the height from here. Okay, that did not help. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let me show it to you like this instead. So as you can see, I have these values here. I just put it on the right side. No, there's something wrong with my Excel. Let me just try to reopen it and see if that helps. Just a minute. So open Excel. So the file size is definitely not a problem. And let's see if now it's working. I think so. Oh, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let me at least show you how it works. So you click on settings. You have different options. If you click on data, you can select your own data as well. So I can select my data like this. Click on select. And now you see I can create this beautiful visualization. And I can even change the icons. I can change the colors. And how are you able to do all of this? Because what you're looking at right now, everybody, is a web page, right? So this is essentially a web page that is running inside Excel. And that's why it looks so pretty and it's fully customizable as well. Let me select my data once again. I'm not sure why the third one is not coming. This is something peculiar. Yeah, but definitely have a look at this. There are a few other add-ins available as well. So when you go to add-ins, not a lot, but you will find a few other things. And then you have integrations with other service providers as well. And it's handy to have, definitely have a look at this. So you can just type, let's say, visualization, and you can see the different types of charts that are available here. Okay. All right. Let's see. The next thing that I want to show you is right. So how do you take a pivot and essentially create a dashboard? Small things. Some of these things you might already know, but I want to hopefully you will learn something new as well. Right? So let me make a pivot table. In fact, we already have one. We have a pivot with us. And just a few suggestions that I want to give to all of you from a dashboard perspective. All right, Ashwin, I have a suggestion for you. Your taskbar looks so congested. If you can minimize the search box size, your taskbar get better view of application. Right click the taskbar and click search bar, click icon. Yeah, I just work with it, Ashwin. I mean, I don't want to make any changes at the moment. And if my taskbar is congested, that's okay. I mean, if you're working in analytics, then you have to get used to congested. I hope it's not creating too much of a problem. Because I'm comfortable with it, I would urge you all to be comfortable with it as well. Okay, now what we want to do here is to learn small things as to how you can make your dashboard look a little prettier. Let me give you a few examples. First thing, I have my subcategory. Let me also put my segment here. And you can see that we have, in fact, if I put my segment here, we have a simple table. What all can you do with it? I obviously can change the colors and the layout and stuff like that. But then I also want to add some charts here. So let me make a chart. In fact, rather than this, let me keep my category since there are only 3 of them. So you can see the entire data. So I'll make a chart. But this is not the chart I want. So on design, let me change the chart type into a bar chart, which is a 100% bar chart. So you can see the percentage contribution coming from all these values, correct? Let me put the chart here. I usually like to remove this field buttons because it makes the chart a little bigger. I encourage that you do that as well. Again, so far nothing fancy, it's just a chart that we have created. Now we also want to have a slicer. So on pivot table analyze, we will select 2 things. One is the slicer, the other is the timeline. In the slicer, I can select anything. So maybe I want to select my region. And there are different regions that we have. Let's put it on the right. And in my slicer, pivot table slicer, we also have an alternative, which is the timeline, which is a slicer only for the date values, which looks like this. So far, everything looks good. But now let me show you something interesting. Okay, please watch. On my chart, we want to add a title. So I will select design, chart element, and then I want to add a chart title like this above the chart. But I want to show something important. Like I might want to show which is the biggest segment, for example. How do we do this? Please watch. In any cell, I will say equal to the largest segment is, I'll concatenate it and I'll say max of these 3 cells. I'm sure all of you can look at the formula and understand what it will do. It will tell me the largest segment is this number. Of course, the decimal place is coming, so we can control that with a text. So I can say that it should be restricted to 0 points. But then how do you get this title inside the chart? There's a very smart way of doing it. You can select the chart title, okay? Do not go inside. A lot of people go inside. You don't want to do that. Just click on the chart title, go to the formula bar, put in an equal to sign, and click on the cell. So you're creating a link, and then whatever value is there in the cell, it will come in the chart as well. So I'm just cutting it and placing it behind the chart so that nobody can see it. And this is so smart, right? Because tomorrow, when something changes, right? So when I say Canada, you will see that the title is changing as well. So the title is not just a static title. It's a title that gives you some crucial interpretation or inference or analysis or insight. Right? Okay. From a visual perspective, how do you make it look even better? Personally, I like to go to view and then I remove the grid line from the back. I also remove the formula bar because when you're presenting a dashboard, you don't really need the formula bar, and I hide the headings as well, like this. So I don't see the column and the rows because we don't need to. And then also hide all the rows and columns that you do not require. So I'll just click one row, select and hide it. Similarly, I will select a column and then right click and hide it. So now it looks much cleaner because you're only focusing on what you want to present, right? Not other things. Just give me a moment. And let me move it to the, okay. And let me reduce the width a little bit. Okay. Looks much cleaner, doesn't it? With very small additions. And of course, we have the timeline. That means that I can choose my years and I can select any year that I want. Now, one problem you will see is that every time I change something, the width of the pivot table might constantly keep on changing, and that's very irritating. So what I want to do here is I will right click on the pivot, go to pivot table options, and then say that it should not auto fit when the column is updated like this. This means that even if the numbers are becoming smaller or larger, do you see this? The width of that pivot table is not changing. So this is a setting you should absolutely 100% change. How do you make this look better, the chart look better? Let's see. So I can click on the chart. So let's go to design and chart element. And what we want to do is make a few changes here. So maybe you want to add the legend key inside. So this way you don't really need the pivot table at all. So I personally sometimes do this because this is nicer. Why do you want a separate table and the chart? You can have both together. And then I'm not taking you through every single one. There are many options. You can spend some time and get comfortable with it. Right? One thing I would surely tell you is that the labels should be very high contrast. What that means is when I add the chart label, in fact, let me also put some interesting colors here. So let me go to format and choose a light green. Maybe the next one becomes a slightly darker shade of green. And the final one is the darkest shade of green. Looks much cleaner now. Even in the pivot, I can go to design and I can select a green theme so that everything blends with each other. On the chart, we can add a border. So shape outline, green color, and also increase the weight of that outline like this. This should be good enough. Okay, same thing on the slicer. We have an option to change the color. So let's make a green theme. So anyway, we have learned how these things work, but let's do something more. So we always say that in consulting, when you're presenting something to the client, you have to give them options. Everybody likes to see options, right? Now here we have made a bar chart, but the problem is I can't see which is the largest segment just by looking at the bar because it's a 100% bar chart. The one option is that you have to make another page, but I'll tell you how the two pages will be connected. Okay. All right. Debjani, we will learn all these things in the Excel class. Absolutely. All of these things are a part of my course. Can we change the negative values color different than positive in data label in case we're showing? Yeah. So Ravinder, there is an option to do that. If you allow me, I'll just do it on a different sheet so that there is no confusion. The question, everybody, is that if I have A, B, C, D, E, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, some numbers are negative. This feature has been added in Excel now. How you do this is that when you make a chart, any chart, there are two things you need to do. Number one, click on the label, right? Double click on the label, go to labels on the right side, and then say that the label position should be high so that it goes to the top, or you can also set it to low so that it comes below the columns. Also, you will notice here that we have an option to, just give me a moment, to go to the fill color, and we have an option called invert if negative. Very cool, right? So the moment you say invert if negative, you will notice that I can choose a color. So my positive will have one color. For example, let me just move it here. So my positive numbers will have a green color and my negative numbers will have a red color. So earlier we had to create dummy formulas and all that stuff, but now this feature has been added called invert if negative. Right? Hope that answers the question. Right? Okay. Let's come back. Now, what we were discussing was how can we make a dynamic dashboard where the user can decide what they want to do. So what I want to start with is by placing two shapes. Insert shapes, please watch. And I'll insert any shape. Let's say there is a rectangle. Let's also choose a green color. with a nice black outline. Perfect. And here we will write changed to, I want to change my chart to something else, right? So we want to have a stacked bar. Also change the font to something more interesting. So let me select Arial black, right? Much better, much bolder. Now, what do we want? This is the sheet that I have. I'll just call it my 100, okay? 100 bar, right click, and then we want to make a copy, right? So I'll just copy it, and this I'll call as my stack bar. Now, what we want to do is that here we want to say stack bar, and in this one, I will change it to the 100% bar. And in this, I will change the chart type. So let's change the chart type into a stack bar, which is this one, slightly different, where you can compare the totals as well. And then how do you make the user move from one to the other? Simple, hyperlink. So on this, there is a hyperlink. Right? So I want to have a link on the entire shape, okay, not just on the text. And the link is on a place in the document, which is 100 bar. And then in the other one, we do the opposite, where we say that we want to have a link, which is, once again, just a moment. So link, and then we say insert link, and we have the stack bar. As you can see, to the end user, they will never realize what is happening. See, this is how you present the dashboard. And your manager is sitting and you're saying, you know what, I want to walk you through all the regions one by one, which is great. I can identify the maximum and stuff like that. And I can also look at the years here. Right? Suddenly he says, you know what, he or she says that, no, I want to look at a different type of chart. So you don't have to go and make a different one, or you don't have to go to a different sheet. You just click on this and just see how smoothly it is transitioning. And this is beautiful, right? It's such a simple thing, no coding, nothing required. And you're still able to present something which looks dynamic in nature, right? So please make sure to use this. Any questions, anybody? Let me see the chat window. Yeah, so it is not a button, it is just a shape, right? Which I have converted into a trigger by right click and insert link. Right? Just like you link a cell, you can link an entire shape as well. All right. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else that I can take you through. So we have done referring to reports. I have spoken about reading guides. I have also spoken about how to use colors and create your own template, how to use a spreadsheet as a slide, and how small additions matter. Of course, from a VBA perspective, there are many things that you can do to make a much better dashboard because you have other types of form controls available, right? But there are certain things you can do even without using VBA. Let me give you an example. So on my desktop, I have a file, which is a ready-made example, okay? Look at this. In fact, this is the one I use for my LinkedIn post as well. How does it work? Just see how cool it is. I can just move the control and look how my chart is also changing. Very nice, isn't it? And then I also have one more, this one, where I can move it. And then it is clubbing the small categories into an others category, right? Depending on my form control. So learning how to use the form control is super important, okay? Let me show you how we do this. I'll do it on the same sheet. And let me also answer the question first. One moment. All right. So is there any function so that the data is automatically selected in the pivot? Not clear. Simath, you'll have to be clearer. What is it that you're trying to ask? Pratik, can we make a calculation field like difference in pivot table having 2 columns? We can, but we need Power Pivot for that. I will explain it, right? The link chart showing the highest value. All right. Can we have the item related to particular number? So love the idea of a linked chart showing the highest value. Can we add the item related to a particular? Sure, Ravinder. So as long as there is some conditional logic on the basis of which you are deciding which number I want to highlight, you can always have that corresponding column, right? Like I said, show me the top 3. You can say, I just want to highlight a specific item, right? That absolutely can be done. If you're familiar with Power BI, do we still need to learn these things in Excel? See, you have to understand that it's very nice to say Power BI is better and beautiful and everybody is working on it. But then 90% of work still happens on Excel in organizations. And that is not going to change overnight. Power BI has been around for what, 6 years now? And look at how many organizations are even working on it. So Excel is not going away anyway. And also, the higher up you go, that means that at a, when you're freshers and when you've joined organizations, you're expected to do fancy stuff and be more creative and be more colorful. But when you're looking at CXOs and board meetings, Excel, 100%. What do you think? In board meetings, people are creating Power BI reports? Of course not, right? My entire time is spent with CXOs, and trust me, bar, column, line, right? Bar, column, line, pie. That's it. I think 80% of their work happens between these 4 charts. Okay. All right. So Prateek, you saw something called XML. Yeah. So filtered XML is a special function. It's a little hard to explain. Maybe you can just Google it or speak to me on LinkedIn. I have created a pivot using a data, but later new rows were added in data. Is it any function that it updates automatically? Absolutely, we can do that. You have an interview with Deloitte. Just speak to me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help you. Let me answer the small questions first. All right. You have a data set which has A, B, C, and then you also have 1, 2, 3. All right. Please watch everybody. Name, sales. Okay. I will convert this into a table. Insert, and not a pivot table, but a table. What is the table called? It is called table 2. I'll change it to my table. Now, when I make a pivot, insert pivot, I'll create it on the same sheet, right? I create it here. What will happen? You will get the same data, but tomorrow when another value gets added, D is 4 and E is 5, this can be refreshed without having to change the data source. So you can right click and refresh and it will work. Make sense? So one line recap, you first have to make the data into a normal table. After that, you can make a summary with a pivot table. That will make it dynamic. You will still have to right click and refresh. But if you know a little bit of VBA, even that can be automated. I know I don't want to complicate it for you. I just want to show everybody how easy it is to work with coding. All of you who fear coding and you feel, Avish, but how will we learn coding just like that? I'm a commerce student with an MBA in marketing. I have no right to learn coding. And today I go to IITs and NITs and I teach them programming, right? So if I can do it, you can do it. Please watch. I want to know how do you refresh a pivot table, correct? Let's see. I will go online. And you just have to type VBA refresh pivot table. And you will find many links that explain you how to refresh a pivot table. Let's see. And this is beautiful, right? It's just one line of code. That is it, nothing else, right? But if you want to refresh all the pivot tables, it says this workbook dot refresh all. It's even simpler. So what will I do? I will do Control C, come back to my sheet, right click. I will go to view code. That's the programming backend. Ignore this rubber duck. This is an add-in that I have for additional capabilities. You guys will not see this. Okay, now when I go to the VBA code, this is my workbook called Open Excel. All I have to do is insert a module. And in the module, I'll write sub refresh pivot. I'm sorry. And I'll write this workbook dot refresh all. And now this code can be connected. If I come back, I can just make a shape like this saying refresh. Right click, assign macro and select the macro that you have. How does it work? Now, every time you add a value, right? How do you refresh it? You don't have to go to the pivot and then right click and refresh. At any point, if you want to refresh, just click on this button and you notice the pivot table gets refreshed. How cool is that? Is it not a nice way of working for yourself and to present it to other people? So rather than telling them, you have to go to that sheet, then you have to click on that cell, then you have to right click, and then you have to refresh. This is so user friendly, right? You just say click and it refreshes. And if you look at the code, this is ridiculously simple, right? It's just literally is one line. This workbook dot refresh all. And that's the point. It's a Pareto. 80% of the things that we need are very simple. Yes, the 20% that we need very rarely might be very complex. So I can also show you 100 lines of code and 1000 lines of code. But most of the work that we need to do in Excel can be automated very simply, like this example that I showed you. All right. Okay. I'll also save this file as an Excel SM since there is a macro in it. Otherwise, that macro will get deleted. Okay, coming back, I wanted to show you, just a moment. I've completely lost track of where I was. Never mind. Can somebody just remind me what is it that I wanted to show you? Let me also clean up a little bit in the meantime. Or in any case, you can ask your questions. I'll be happy to answer. By the way, just see the types of charts that I create. Right? Look, I mean, these are simple, I know, but look at the ones I create after this. This is called a pie of pi and a bar of pi. Look at how beautiful the scatter chart. And these are all Excel, okay? Nothing to do with Power BI. Then we have the tree map and the sunburst. Then we have waterfalls. Then we have, even maps can be created on Excel. You have spark lines, combination charts. Then you have this example I did for you. Then you have infographics that you can design. You can have trellis charts. Then you can have Pareto charts, gauge charts. I mean, so don't underestimate Excel. There is a lot that you can do with dashboards. Yeah, this is the example I wanted to show you. I probably don't have time to cover this, but then I have a lot of videos on YouTube. I'm sure you can go and have a look at that. Let me just see the questions as well. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to clean it up. I want to save this. And we do not need this. It's closed. I can close this. And Power BI. Excellent. Let's see the questions. Okay. I don't think I've left out too many questions. If there's something, please just remind me and ask. Happy to answer. Yeah, so calculations is what you were saying. I'll give you a small example. I'm not sure if you'll be able to catch up, but then you ask me, I'm showing you, okay? Please watch. Everybody, very useful, okay? I have a data set. I will go to File. I will go to Options, and I have to enable something called the Power Pivot. So in add-ins, all of you have it, okay? It's free, it's installed. You just have to enable it. In add-ins, you go to Com add-ins, and then you click on Go, and you have to select something called Microsoft Power Pivot. It's a very powerful feature. That's why it's hidden to most of the users. Now, when I make a chart, my pivot table, I will make sure to select this option called Data Model because we're going to use it for calculations, all right? And let me do something. So I'm going to select my order year, order date, put it in rows. And I want to remove the quarter. I want to remove the month. I also want to remove the date. And I will keep the year in columns. I will also select my subcategory and put it in rows. And sales is in values. And once we have done that, let me remove the decimal places. I'm sorry. Let's say I have filtered the data to only show me 14 and 15, which are the last 2 years, and I want to compare them. I want to look at the change from 14 to 15. To do this, you go to Power Pivot, and you have to create what is called a measure. The same measures are used in Power BI as well. So I click on Measure and New Measure. And then I can write these are complex formulas. These are DAX expressions. So for most of you, this will be brand new. So don't worry if you don't understand it. That is how I felt when I started working on it. So I want to say 2015 versus 2014. And the formula here would be, let me see. So we want to calculate the sum of sales, right? And I want to say that my year, okay, is equal to 2015, and let me copy the entire thing, and I'll say minus, and in this one I'll say 2014. Let's see if that works. Let me check the formula, and it says there is an error. Just hold on. So maybe let's try to put it inside a double quote. See if that works. Check formula. That seems to work. Let's see if we get the result or not. All right. So do you see this, everyone? So 2014 was this. 2015 is this. It's just that this value is getting repeated 3 times, but that we can fix. We can go to filter and we can filter that out. I'm not doing that now. Or you can even just maybe hide this. Right? Just a moment. Just so that you don't get confused. I'm hiding everything. Perfect. This is what you wanted, right? You wanted to see 15 versus 14. I've done it. How cool is that? Everybody has been telling you for the last how many so ever years you have been working, no, you can't do calculations in pivots. And they were all wrong because this feature has been around for 12 years, right? It's just that we don't know about it. And it's obviously a little difficult to learn. But when you know how to work on it, it's a game changer, right? I hope all of you will agree with me. Calculations inside pivot tables. Right? Pratik, I hope that answers the question. All right. Is there any source for VBA? I have an excellent, so I have a course, but I also have some free videos available. And let me show you the free videos. If you like it, you can also purchase the course. I'm sharing the link with you. Just a moment. This is a 4.5-hour session that I took on VBA, where I've explained all the basics of VBA, and you can all have a look at this. It's on the chat window. Yeah, Pratik, it will work. I mean, it's not that it can't not work. It has to work. Right? Great. We have already crossed 8. If there are any last 1 or 2 questions, we'll be happy to answer, everybody. Also sharing my most welcome. Yeah, so this was like a 100-meter race for me, where in 60 minutes I had to cover so many topics. So I hope you don't judge me that why are you so fast? I had to be, right? Because the idea of the training is not to teach you one topic properly and make you practice. The purpose of doing the training is to make you aware. And that's why I'm doing these open workshops, which is an awareness session, not a hands-on training. If you go back and say, Havish, we did not remember everything or we can't do it ourselves, I'm okay with that. But I hope you all go back knowing 5 or 6 or 10 new things that you probably missed out on or you hadn't even heard of it, right? That was the objective of doing this. I will share this file with you as well. So all the data is there, all the charts are there, and you can have a look at this. Yeah. Any other question? Anybody? Let me save this. All right. So yeah, so I will be sharing the video. You're most welcome, Suraj. Excellent. So thank you everybody for joining me. I have 555 videos on my YouTube channel that do cover these topics as well. Basic, intermediate, advanced Excel, and super advanced Excel, Power BI, Tableau. Obviously, everything is free of cost. So make sure to have a look at that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.